Hello Summoners and welcome to another ProGuides video. My name is Christoph and in this video, we're going to cover some popular jungle paths players are using in the preseason. A lot has changed and I know it is extremely frustrating to figure out what is working right now in the current meta, but that's why we're here guys, to help update you and provide you with information you need to win more games out on Summoner's Rift. And for our question of the day, which jungler would you suggest to an auto-filled player and why? Let's help each other out guys, put your answer down below. Personally, I would suggest Warwick right now because he's straightforward and great at securing dragons. They're so valuable right now, and the fact that Warwick is so strong while being also pretty simple makes him a solid pick for any player in my opinion. And before we get started, I want you guys to click on that link below if you want to get better at League of Legends. We have a ton of courses specifically designed for you guys to help you out in your preseason climb. If you are learning a new champion, go to ProGuides.com, watch a guide, and then go get a challenger coach. Any role, you name it, all the resources you need are there, and we're ready to help you take your gameplay to the next level. With that said, let's get right into the video. All right, let's start off with our first route, which is going to be the full clear, or power farming route. You guys are probably aware to some extent of the effect that the jungle changes have had. One of the strongest paths right now, especially for lower elo players, is going to be power farming. It's so punishing to fail a gank in the current state of the game, which means why not just power farm? Well, this jungle path is the simplest, but one of the most effective routes in the current state of the game because of how rewarding it is to constantly clear through your jungle. You simply choose one buff on either side, usually your blue buff, and then clear every camp up to your Krugs. In terms of ganks, you'll have opportunities at the end of full clears or through mid while transitioning from side to side. What I like about this route is that it's safe and it's much more viable than before. Even if your opponents manage to find successful ganks repeatedly, power farming your jungle means that you'll very rarely, if ever, fall behind your opponent. At the very least, you'll still be in a position where you can take them on in 1v1s and have opportunities to make plays. There's also the possibility that your opponent fails their early ganks, meaning you're going to pull very far ahead of them with the shorter spawn timers on jungle camps. Depending on the circumstances, you'll also be able to punish your opponents. In a way, this is a much more reactive way to play the game, but definitely a viable one. If you see that your opponents are low or under-leveled from flopped ganks or lack of farming, you can stray into their jungle and bully them. In spite of this being a farm-centric route, some champions like Olaf can still find plenty of gank opportunities as they're particularly gifted with extremely fast clear speeds. Aside from him, most junglers that want to use this route are those who scale well, want to hit a fast level 6, or aren't very good duelists in the early game. Some good examples are Amumu, Zac, Nocturne, Master Yi, Olaf, and Dr. Mundo. Okay, now let's get into our next route, which is going to be the 5 camp into Scuttle route. A slight variation to the full clear involves taking Scuttle Crab as well. This route is slightly better when you start on your blue side as you won't have to add too much extra time onto your timer clear speeds to do this. As long as you take either the Gromp or Krug camp alongside your 2 buffs, taking a total of 6 jungle camps will net you level 4. Starting blue and then proceeding to take Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, and then Red, you'll hit level 3 and be ready to move on to the Scuttle Crab. Once you finish the Scuttle Crab, you'll be level 4 and have plenty of options. Since you're in the middle of the river, you'll have an opportunity to gank mid, gank the side lane you're closer to, or move on to your Krugs to finish. While you can start Red instead, the reason we suggest starting blue for this route is that it saves time in the long run. The time it takes to walk from blue to Gromp is practically non-existent, especially if you pull blue towards your Gromp and smite the Gromp. Conversely, from Red to Krugs, you'll have to loop around an entire wall or jump over it to farm your next camp. If you move from blue to Scuttle as opposed to Red to Scuttle, that's more time lost. Another way to look at it is that Krugs is the camp that's the most out of the way, so you want to leave that for last to ensure that you can get to the Scuttle quicker. However, you should take into consideration which buff will allow your champion to clear faster. What's more important is which buff will get you to that Scuttle faster, as it could potentially be contested. Junglers that like to full clear can instead opt for this route if they feel safe enough walking into the river, or if they want to try and secure a Scuttle early on for their teammates. Okay, now let's go on to our next clear. This variation of a full clear is a 3 camp into Scuttle route. You'll choose one side of your jungle to start on, clear those 3 camps, gank mid, take the opposite scuttle, and then clear the last 3 camps on your opposite side. This clear is reminiscent of popular clears from last season. It's essentially the same as the 5 camp clear, but you'll throw in a gank mid to transition into an early scuttle. The downside of this is that inevitably you'll probably soak up XP from your mid laner in the process, and then you'll give away your pathing to the enemy team once you show up mid. This also means that if you're weaker than your opponent, they can immediately path toward the scuttle and try to contest, since they know where you're headed. A fact about this route, though, is that it sets up ganks on the side you started in the subsequent clears. The reason for this is that you've delayed the clear of the side opposite to where you started, since you'll throw in that mid gank and clear scuttle crab. As a result, the spawn times of your starting side and opposite side are further spread apart. That makes this route a bit of a double-edged sword. If you started on the red side for this clear, you'd gank mid, take the opposite scuttle, and clear your blue side. You'd then recall, clear your red side again, and have some time before your blue side camps spawn. Logically, this is a good time to either gank the adjacent side lane or gank mid again as you wait for your camps to come back up. Our next jungle route is one that's been around previously, but we want to reiterate its place in the current meta. The Predator clear, which involves taking your red side camps and then recalling to buy your boots, is still a route that's actually used in the current meta. However, one thing that's changed is that it's now viable to use this route on the blue side of the jungle as well. Now, you'll get enough gold to buy boots and hit level 3. Last season, you would never see anyone do this because you'd only be level 2 after finishing your 3 camps on the blue side. This is a solid clear path if you're going to be playing a jungle that utilizes Predator and you want to look for extremely early ganks. Although not too many champions use this as their primary keystone, it's a great alternative option if you're trying to play with a much more aggressive game plan. Another thing worth noting is that since spawn timers have been reduced, even if you get pushed to only one quadrant of your jungle, you'll still be able to find some farm. The downside of using this jungle path is that you can potentially give up one quadrant of your jungle completely if you commit to an early gank. Recalling unfortunately takes time, and the fact that you have the Predator keystone can raise some red flags for your opponent and let them know that invading is a possibility. In the case that you end up forfeiting one quadrant of your jungle to gank a lane, you'll definitely fall behind if you can't pick up any takedowns. That doesn't mean that you can't or shouldn't gank, it just means that you have to only go for them if they're high percentage plays. Okay, now let's go on to our next route, which is going to be the double scuttle route. Remember how we mentioned 6 camps will usually yield you a level 6? Well, the double scuttle route really takes advantage of this fact. This is a very aggressive level 4 opener where you push for both scuttles to hit level 4. Here's the route and it's pretty strict, so make sure to follow it. It goes red buff, wolves, blue, gromp, scuttle, and then scuttle. So first of all, why does this route even work? The first thing is that it won't work every game. And as we all know, scuttle is something junglers shouldn't and usually don't give up very easily, often making some questionable plays to try and secure them. Efficiency is absolutely key in the current state of the jungle, but efficiency really is quite predictable. With some early wards, it's much easier to determine which side of the map your opponent starts, as well as their pathing. This path definitely takes a lot of in-the-moment decision-making, and you need as much information as you can gather to pull this one off. You'll also need to play a champion who can clear single-target camps rather quickly. To successfully push for a double scuttle, you need to clear faster than your opponent and also be stronger than them, so that you can force them to concede both. The reason you take this specific route is because it's probably the fastest way you can clear 4 camps, and it secures double scuttle for some early vision control. Red buff will give you extra damage for your following camps, wolves is an easy clear, and you can save a lot of time on blue and gromp by pulling them close to each other, or doing them simultaneously if your champion is capable of it. Remember that you can pull the blue buff toward the gromp and smite the gromp as you're finishing blue to save some time. You can make gromp come to you and shave off some crucial seconds as you'll need to jump into the scuttle crabs ASAP. By clearing efficiently, you're at least guaranteed the scuttle next to your blue, as you'll usually be first. However, once you finish your gromp, this is where the path will deviate based on what you think your opponent is doing. If you believe that your opponent started on the same side as you, aka they're blue, and is full clearing their jungle, then you can simply take the first scuttle, gank or walk through mid, and then clear the second one. In cases where they start on their red, that's where things get a little bit more complicated. Nevertheless, the first step to either of these scenarios is invading early for vision. A good spot to place your first ward is at the enemy raptor camp. Regardless of if your opponent starts red or blue, you'll likely catch them out while they walk into their jungle. If they started red, you'll see them rather early on, but if a decent chunk of time has passed without a sight of them, you can usually deduce that they started blue or even before they passed by your ward. If your opponent starts red, you need to see if they're full clearing or going for the same route as you. If they're going for the same route, you'll unfortunately have to go for a handshake and make an even trade. Take the scuttle near your blue buff, and then proceed to counter jungle their raptors and/or krugs. If instead you notice that they're full clearing, you can take the first scuttle and look mid for a gank. If your laners have priority, you should instead rush toward the opposite scuttle and attempt to contest it with the help of your teammates. I'd suggest using this route with strong early game champions like Lee Sin, Rek'Sai, Elise, Xin Zhao, Olaf, and Volibear. Okay, let's go over our next and final route, which is going to be the level 3 rush. While the double scuttle route would help you push for level 4, let's talk about a route that pushes for level 3. Clearing either side of the jungle can net you level 3, but one other option is to rush for level 3 by taking red, blue, and then GROMP. There isn't a significant advantage to doing this as opposed to clearing one side of the jungle for level 3, but it does secure you double buffs early on and also allows you to end up on the opposite side from where you started. If you were to clear red, krugs, and raptors, or raptors, red, and krugs, then you'd be on your red side of the map. But with this route, you can instead end up on your blue side. Another option, of course, is starting blue, taking GROMP, and then taking your red. You'll want to choose this route if you want red buff for your early ganks, but need to prioritize the opposite side of the map. For example, let's say you're on the blue team, but need to gank top because there's a snowballing matchup like Riven versus Yasuo. You would clear red, blue, then GROMP, and then gank top at level 3. Depending on which jungler you're playing and how the enemy laners are playing, you might even be able to catch them while they're still level 1 or when they've just managed to hit level 2. Alright guys, that's all the routes. That's a lot to take in, so let's go over a summary. So when you're playing power farming junglers or ones that want to hit level 6, opt for either a full clear or one of its modifications, like 5 camps into Scuttle or 3 camp mid gank and then Scuttle. If you're playing a more aggressive jungler, then push for a double Scuttle route by rushing through those solo camps and pressing forward aggressively. Otherwise, opt for a quick level 3 and immediately choose a lane to gank. And finally, Predator clears are still part of the game. While they are risky, they do have their place, especially if you like to start spamming ganks from a very early stage of the game. And that concludes the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, then please hit that like button and go subscribe to our channel. And if you guys are interested in getting to Diamond in your preseason to set yourself up for success in the regular season, then go to ProGuides.com where we have challenger coaches ready to help you right now. ProGuides has everything that you need to get into Diamond or higher next season. That's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in your preseason games, and we'll see you on the Rift.